Okay, excellent. Turn on that light. Is that too bright?
No, we go great.
Okay, can you see me?
We
Or
can. The event
you
has
can?
started. Mm-hmm.
You can see me? Okay,
Yeah.
I can't see me for some reason. Oh well, that's right. As long as folks can see me. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the AMATS open house for the non-motorized plan. We are so excited you're here. I know there's about 8 or 10 of you in the queue right now that we're showing, so hopefully some more folks will join us in a little bit. My name's Joni Wilm. I'm the project manager for AMATS for this plan, and I'm going to be presenting the open house, the majority of it, to you today. We're going to get some help from our public involvement coordinator, Christine Schutte, for a few parts. And again, thank you to Christine for setting up this virtual open house. She does a great job, and this is our first virtual open house that we are ever doing, so please bear with us. Hoping it runs smoothly, but there might be a few hiccups on the way, but we will do our best to keep everything on time and on task. I just want to alert you to a few things here on your screen. So as you can see, we have a sign-in sheet. So please sign in. You can do it a couple ways. You can type that link below that says please sign in into your web browser and go to the sign-in sheet there, or you can use that QR code and just do it right with your phone. You can also go to the chat box, which is on the lower right part of your screen, and that will direct you to submitting, or Christine will has put the link in there, so you can click directly on that. And just a couple housekeeping things I have to tell you. If you want to ask a question or submit a comment during the event, we will be taking questions and answering them a couple times during the event before our Q&A session at the end. So if you want to submit a question, select the Q&A button on the right side of your screen, type your question into the compose box, and then select send. If you want to ask your question anonymously, you can select ask anonymously. And we'll do our best to get to all of your questions today, but if we don't, we will promise to get to your question after the open house. We'll go from 5 to 7. We'll get to your question after the open house, and we'll email you directly in response. So, but hopefully we'll get to everyone's questions. Again, thank you so much for being here today. Make sure you sign in. This is the link again and the QR code. So I'm going to just give folks one more minute to sign in that sign-in sheet, and we will be on our way. And I'm gonna keep track of the time here on my phone. Looks like it's 5:02, so we'll give folks a few more minutes to join us and sign in. Christine, do we have any? I'm gonna look in the chat box too, actually, while I'm doing that. And see if we have any comments. I don't see any comments in there yet, so if you need help, can't figure out what to do, shoot us an email or shoot us a comment, and we'll help you figure it out. Not seeing anything yet, but and I think my next slide, I'm going to go over the agenda just to give you folks a little bit of background on this planning effort. It has been going on for the good part of 3.5 years, and we have had a lot of public outreach so far, a really extensive internal agency review where we collected over 400 comments and responded to those. Now it's out for public review. Again, just a reminder to folks, the public review goes through March 5th. So that was from January 4th to March 5th. Give folks a full 60 days to comment. We're taking comments all throughout that period. And then there will be additional opportunities for comment after that is over, which I will go over in a slide later. So lots of opportunity to comment. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. It's about 5:04, so I'm going to move ahead with the next slide. And again, like I said, if you have questions, comments, I'm just going to read this over again real quick. Shoot, I lost it. Wait, no, I did. So again, if you have questions, you want to submit a comment, select the Q&A button on the right side of your screen. Type your question in the compose box. Again, if you want to submit your comment anonymously, just select ask anonymously. And again, we'll try to get to all your questions during the open house, but if not, we will email you a response afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So again, welcome to the AMATS Non-Motorized Plan Open House. This is our agenda for today. We're going to do a little bit of welcome and introductions that we're doing right now, which I've sort of gone over. We will do a survey right off the bat in a few minutes here. What we really want to find out in this first survey, it's only 5 questions. It's super quick. You can do it on your phone, really easy, or on your computer. We want to find out when you heard about the plan and how you've been involved in the public involvement process throughout our 3.5 years. So that's the gist of our #1 survey that we have questions to. We get those answers. We're actually going to go over all of the results. Christine's going to go over those with us so we can see how folks learned about the plan and were involved, which will be pretty cool. And then I'm going to jump into my presentation, which is a bit long. It's probably going to take about 25 minutes or so. And that's going to be a brief overview of the entire document, which is it's a fairly big document. So we're going to go over that. And then there will be a second follow-up survey after the presentation around 5:45. And that'll be another survey to look at just some specific elements of the plan and what you found useful as a member of the public and how you are thinking about using the plan in the future. So we'll do that survey, go over the results of that. We'll go briefly over some next steps, and then we'll dive into our Q&A from about 6 to 7. So may not go all the way till 7, but if we have enough questions, we will. All right, so we're going to do our first survey now. Survey #1, I guess over 3 minutes early. Don't see a slide. Does everyone see a slide? Sorry. Christine, do you see a slide?
No, that was a while ago, but it's.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't see that pop up on my phone.
Nice.
Okay, so everyone, so we're good, we're rolling. So here's survey #1. So while you're taking this survey, well, we will answer any questions that come in. I don't see any questions in yet, but to do this survey, just use that QR code right on your phone or type that link into your browser, or the link is also, Christine put it in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll give folks a few minutes to take that survey. And I will find some music to play. No, I will, we do have some questions that we got earlier, but I'll just give folks a few minutes to take that survey. What, Christine?
There's one new question in the chat.
There is one?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's see. Well, okay, so this is from Will. And the question is, will there be a revised draft for review after modifications to this draft are complete? Great question, Will. So typically what we do in the planning process is, because our well, this document is 300 and something pages, and it's all in InDesign, which is a publishing software. What we typically do is we take all of the comments into our comment response table. We then have to take those comments through our advisory committees. So I'll lay out the process a little bit later, but we need to go through the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee and the AMATS Policy Committee and the Assembly. And all of the comments will be reviewed, typically will be reviewed by those committees, and if they're approved, then they will become part of the draft. In some occasions, we have taken comments and put them into the draft before they were met final approval, but that does take a little bit longer. So if we decided to do that, we could maybe do that, but it would take quite a bit longer and might take us a few months longer. We would really like to have this plan adopted by June or July at the latest. So great question. We'll probably keep everything in the tables, but we're always open to hearing a different way. If folks think we need to input all the changes and then look at it again, we could do that. But again, good question. Okay, so it looks like we've got any more questions coming in? Okay, so I bet folks have probably finished the survey. It's 5:10. So should we look at the results, Christine? What do you think?
Sure, let me process them and then I'll put them up on the screen.
I forgot about the delay too. I think there's a little bit of a delay, a 20-second delay from when we say something to when you guys hear it on your end. There we go.
I will try to zoom in. So the first question, just kind of getting a feel from people on the call, when did they learn about the non-motorized plan? It looks like most people learned about it when the planning started 3 years ago in 2017. How did you learn about it? Most people learned about it from the AMATS website or social media platforms. Community council emails was second. And then looking at the activities, just which activities people have attended. So a lot of people attended the kickoff and the advisory group meeting. And then we do have some folks that haven't attended any of these activities, but they're still interested in the plan. And then which activities do you think were the most beneficial? It looks like a lot of people thought the kickoff activity and the advisory group meeting are coming in on top. And then rate the public participation process in this plan. So people thought it was fair, some thought it was excellent, and a few thought it was good.
Oh, that's good. Great. Good to hear that. Awesome. Thank you. Christine, can you scroll up again just for a little bit? I wanted to look at that second.
Which question?
Up a little bit more, the second question, maybe. What was it? It looks like people did not, oh, the third one down, sorry. It looks like people did not use the phone app, or, well, the folks here didn't use the phone app. I thought we got a lot of folks using that, but maybe it wasn't as popular as we thought. Okay, great. Well, awesome.
And we can look at it again later to see if more people filled it out later in the presentation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're going to do that. We'll check back in later. Thank you, Christine. Okay, and I don't see, let's see. I don't see any. Oh, no, we do have one new question, which I might just. Lindsay has a question. Looks like she's asking how many people responded to that survey. Was there 8?
8 have answered yes.
8. Okay, good question. Okay, great. Thanks, Lindsay. All right, so we will come back to that survey. I'm going to open my share tray back up. We will come back to that survey a little bit later and give folks another opportunity to participate, or if they're doing so now, we'll have another look at it in a bit. I'm going to jump into my presentation. Most all of you have probably seen this presentation, and it's so I apologize for the having to look at it again, but we will. It's helpful, especially for those folks who haven't seen it and who are maybe newer to the plan. So, oops, and can everyone see, can you see, just real quick, can you see my notes or just the slide?
Just the slide.
Okay, just slide. Okay, good. Great. Okay, so anyways, welcome again. My name is Joni Wilm. This is the non-motorized plan open house. I am going to be going through the plan today for you to sort of give you a brief outline of what's in it. It's a fairly large document. We do have some folks on the line here at the end in the Q&A that will help us answer some questions that you have, and I will introduce them in just a sec. This is our plan draft. The cover is on the left there. And our project team involved Alta Planning and Design. They are leading consultants in the field of non-motorized planning. They were great to work with. We operated mostly with the folks in the Seattle office, and Kim Voros with the Seattle office, who is a planner there, will help us answer some questions at the end if we have any super technical data questions. We also have Mark Frudinger with R&M Consultants, and they were our transportation engineers, our local transportation engineers on the project, and he will be available at the end in the Q&A as well. And then we have had Holly Spoth Torres with Huddle do our public involvement for us, and they were great. And then I'm with AMATS, so joining on with AMATS. So this was our team, just a small team, small but efficient. So again, like I mentioned, I'm just going to go briefly over the chapters. There are 7 chapters. Yeah.
Before you get started, there was one more question in the chat that was asking about the phone app. So since you just went over that, if you just wanted to touch it on what that activity was.
Yes, thanks for that question. So the phone app, so at the beginning of the planning process, and Kim could probably talk about it a little bit more at the end of our presentation here, but at the beginning of the process, the consultants created an app that you could download onto your phone, and basically you could bike around on the trails, and then if you wanted to submit a comment, so if you're out on the trails and you notice something wasn't right, or you were in a spot where you're like, well, this would be a great opportunity for a bike lane or a separated pathway or something, or there was a safety issue, you could log on to the app and it would go to an online web map that was on the project website. And you could log in your comment, and then it would upload to the project website web map. So I'll show a little picture of that in a bit. But basically that was the app, and we ran it for, I think we ran it for 2 or 3 months at the beginning of our planning process in 2017. So, but no, great question. I don't see any other ones right now, but, and we can talk about that a little bit more later if that didn't answer it for you. But so back to the document, there are 7 chapters. I'm going to go over briefly each one today. The introduction. Chapter 2 is existing conditions. That was all about how our team looked at what was happening on the ground in Anchorage right now as a starting point, and also included a bunch of data analysis that I will go into a little more detail in a sec. Chapter 3 is all about our public involvement process and what was done to reach out to folks and educate folks along the way. Chapter 4 basically takes all the information we gathered in chapters 1, 2, and 3 and comes up with network development recommendations. So it's recommendations for how we should expand the bicycle and pedestrian network. And then chapter 5 is prioritization chapter. That chapter takes the information in chapter 4, which was the network recommendations, and then prioritizes those recommendations in order of high, medium, and low. And so we'll talk about how that was done and what criteria was used to make those characterizations for the projects. And then chapter 6 is implementation. This is where we had a lot of super great work from R&M, as you'll see later on, but came up with six project examples to help folks get an idea of what's involved when you recommend a certain facility type. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, our design guide, our consultants, Alta Planning and Design, they are leading experts in non-motorized design, and we really want to capitalize on a lot of their expert knowledge. So we have an entire chapter at the end devoted to design recommendations. And some of those designs we use here in Anchorage, but a lot of them we don't use yet. So it's pretty forward thinking, and we're excited to bring some of that new design into our AMATS area. And then we have an appendices. The appendices is also quite long, but includes all of our all of our meeting notes and other things, as well as an acronym glossary and things like that. So, okay, to start, so chapter 1 is the introduction. So basically what we were doing here was categorizing all of the non-motorized facilities in AMATS area as within 3 different types. There are all 3 different types of facility. There was a pedestrian network, a bicycle network, and a shared use path network. And we had different goals for each of those networks. So the main goals that we decided we wanted to go after for the pedestrian network included identifying priority corridors, providing flexible implementation strategies, and improving safety and connectivity. For the bicycle network, our main goals were closing gaps in the existing network, providing on-street facilities. We have great off-street facilities right now, so we really wanted to focus on providing some great on-street facilities that would connect to all of those great off-street facilities we already have. And then finally connecting to existing and planned infrastructure. And the shared use path network, our goals for that were to connect to existing routes, bicycle and pedestrian routes, developing some off-street connections to these low stress routes, and then serving recreation and transportation. So those were our 3 main categories of facilities that you'll see throughout this document. So this is a look at our AMATS planning boundary. This is our AMATS area. We're funded by the federal government to plan for this area. So within this area, we are recommending the facilities listed in the right-hand column. So sidewalks, enhanced shared roadways, which I'll talk about in a little bit, separated bikeways, shared use pathways and side paths, and equestrian trails along roadways, and supplemental bicycle facilities. And at the beginning of the process, and I should say during all of this so far, we held a project kickoff and had advisory groups helping us craft all of these vision statements and goals. So during this process, which we'll touch on in the public involvement chapter, a vision statement was crafted, and I'll just read it out for folks, but it basically says that Anchorage is a world-class northern city that has an integrated network of routes accessible for people of all ages and all abilities to walk, roll, or glide safely on shared use pathways and streets. And with this vision statement, we had 7 goals, and these goals are throughout the document and also show up in our implementation chapter, in our implementation matrix. But they are to increase the use of the non-motorized system, to promote and improve health and quality of life, to improve safety and security, to optimize maintenance for all seasons, to connect communities through all modes to all destinations, to measure non-motorized use and assets, and finally, to build community through education and involvement. So again, just a very brief touch on chapter 1, which was our introduction. And now we go into chapter 2, which is existing conditions. So this was what we as a team did to figure out what was happening on the ground in Anchorage so that we could know where we were starting from. So very first thing was to look at the plans that already exist. So we reviewed the plans listed on the left and I think a few more. I don't think I fit it all on there, but so look at existing plans. We also did a peer city review. So if you don't know what a peer city review is, basically it's a process of looking at what some other cities are doing to try and learn from them and implement some policies or goals that they have to try and improve our situation here in Anchorage. So what these cities all have in common, first of all, is they're all winter cities. So we looked at 5 cities: Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Salt Lake City, Utah, Calgary, Alberta, and Montreal in Quebec. And all of these cities, again, like I said, are winter cities. They have varying populations, but they all have a significant annual snowfall. They all have significant days below freezing, like Anchorage does. And they all have a pretty impressive bicycle mode share. So in other words, they have done a very good job at getting folks out on their bike and ped infrastructure. So we wanted to learn from what they were doing to see if we could implement any of the good stuff they were doing. So some takeaways that we learned from those peer-reviewed studies. So here are some of the things that these cities were doing that we felt we could do here and make part of this planning effort to improve our mode share here in Anchorage. So I'm not going to read all of these, but basically, you know, we're already bicycle friendly silver, so we go for bicycle friendly gold rating, building more partnerships, more program funding, especially with Safe Routes to School, under the city policies and programs, more dedicated Safe Routes to School programs, promote bike share programs, and developing and adopting bicycle parking requirements for wintertime. And then for some of our shared use pathways, we could adopt shared use pathway design guidelines and improve roadway crossing options, and a lot of other things. But these were just some of the highlights from that peer city review. So very helpful. And these were, again, incorporated into our planning document. So also in chapter 2, we looked at existing facilities that we had on the ground already. So as an example, here's the map from the document. It's our existing bicycle network map. So you can see in yellow is our existing bike boulevards, our bike lanes in the dark blue, our paved shoulder bikeways in the light blue, and shared use pathways, primary and secondary in the green, thicker green line and the skinnier green line. So just taking stock of what we have on the ground already. In addition to this, we utilized the Anchorage Vision Zero plan, which was finalized and adopted in 2018. It has the most recent crash data that we could get our hands on for the AMATS area. So incorporated this data for safety into our document, and I'll go in, went into our prioritization analysis that I'll talk about in a bit. But basically, if you haven't heard of Vision Zero, it's basically trying to get the number of traffic-related fatalities to 0. So that's the goal. So this was an effort done in Anchorage a few years ago. The plan was adopted in 2018, like I mentioned, and they have the most recent, I should say best, but most recent crash data, which we use for our plan. We also did a level of traffic stress analysis. This was done to tell us basically how comfortable our facilities were for existing users. So level of traffic stress takes into account 4 things. They include the posted speed limit, the street width, the presence of bicycle lanes, or the character of the bicycle lanes. And given those 4 criteria, then you come up with the level of stress score from 1 to 4, 1 being the lowest stress and 4 being the highest. So you can see in this map here, some of the red roadways indicate the higher stress roadways, and the blue indicate the lower stress. And it's not surprised that the red roadways occur generally on higher speed roadways and arterials. But this data also was incorporated into our prioritization matrix that we're going to talk about later. In addition to that, we did a demand analysis. The demand analysis looks at where folks are living, where they're working, where they're accessing parks and playgrounds, where they're shopping, where they access transit, and where they go to school. And so given those 6 factors, then it computes a demand analysis that'll show you where those high demand areas are. So in this map, you can see the darker orange areas are our higher demand areas. And those are where folks are utilizing our current non-motorized network the most. In addition to this, our team looked at health and equity. So the health indicators that were looked at included obesity, heart disease, physical activity, cancer prevalence, diabetes prevalence, poor mental health prevalence, and asthma prevalence. They also looked at equity, and the equity indicators that were used included age, income, limited English proficiency, the percentage of non-white population, education level, and vehicle access. And you can see here, again, the darker orange red areas are areas that scored highest on the equity indicators. So, and we don't have a map for, we don't have a map for the health indicators, but that's because when we did the analysis, when our team did the analysis, they noticed that the health indicators were showing up in the same exact areas as the equity indicators. So this map for equity basically could potentially double for the health map. So they're sort of go hand in hand, and so this was also taken into account and used in our project prioritization later on. So that's again chapter 2, very brief touch on that. Chapter 3 is all about public involvement. So again, as I stated before, we did a bunch of activities. Here are some photos from the different activities we did. Included a big public workshop at the beginning, presentations, mobile meetings, stakeholder interviews, field data collection, walk audits, and an online community survey. And in addition to that, we had advisory committee groups. We had 2 groups. We had citizens advisory group and an agency advisory group. And the objective of these 2 groups was to sort of oversee the entire process, and they helped us out with vision and goals at the beginning, as did members of the public from our public workshop. And they also helped select the peer cities that we used with our help with our public engagement strategy and some design guidance and prioritizing projects and some other things. In addition to that, we did mobile meetings, and these Holly and her group did. She interviewed all these organizations on the left, and some key takeaways that we found from these mobile meetings included that folks really wanted to see more non-motorized transportation infrastructure. They wanted to see improved maintenance of the infrastructure we already have, increased safety and feelings of safety on shared use pathways, better winter sidewalk maintenance, and prioritization of snow removal, better first and last mile connectivity to transit, and then finally increased connectivity of our non-motorized infrastructure. And then finally, for this public involvement chapter, we talk about the winter maintenance forum. This we actually did at the very beginning of our planning process. So it was done in September of 2017. And we invited speakers from municipal maintenance and operations, DOT maintenance operations, and MOA parks operations, and had a very robust discussion, which also included members of the public, members from advocacy groups, political appointees, to talk about maintenance here in Anchorage. And it was really well done. It went great. I think what we're aiming to do is do a follow-up winter maintenance forum at the end of this planning process, because I know, especially for us in Alaska, winter maintenance is a big deal, and we can always work to coordinate that better. So we're planning to do another winter maintenance forum at the tail end of this planning process. So just FYI. So that was basically chapter 3. We are moving right along. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, again, is all about network development. It basically takes the information we gathered in the first 3 chapters and uses that information to recommend projects to build out the bicycle network and the pedestrian network. So again, this bicycle network recommendation map that you see here, the goals for this effort for bike build out included putting more on-street and off-street facilities on the ground, building it on existing shared use pathways and side path networks, providing connected low-stress travel, and then providing upgrades to existing facilities. And you can see here on our proposed bicycle network, we have enhanced shared roadways proposed. Those are in purple, and I'm going to talk about those in 1 second. We also have separated bikeways. Those are in orange. And then shared use pathways in green. And so we have those for the Anchorage area and Chugiak, Eagle River, and downtown. And so just to give folks an idea, because I think we're introducing some new terminology here. But basically when we say enhanced shared roadway, so again, on this map, those are the purple lines. Those could be one of 2 types of facilities. They could include a yield roadway, which is a facility on the left, or a bicycle boulevard, which is a facility on the right. And these are both lower speed roadways. The yield roadway is something like this roadway you see here. It doesn't have any striping, but it's a slow enough speed and it's calm enough that folks feel comfortable using it, whether they're on a bike or walking, and they can use it at the same time as cars and feel pretty safe. So usually, again, serves bidirectional travel. There's no lane markings, and we have quite a few roads here in Anchorage that could already fit into this category. The second roadway, the Bicycle Boulevard, like we have on 10th Avenue, is it also, again, a street with low traffic volumes. It has a maximum posted speed of 25 miles per hour. There's usually wayfinding signage like we do have on 10th Avenue, so you know that you're on a bicycle boulevard. And there's usually paintings on the pavement, so you can see that you are allowed to, or you're supposed to be there as a cyclist. So again, yield roadways and bicycle boulevards are two types of enhanced shared roadways. Secondly, and these were the orange facilities shown on the bike map I showed earlier, as a separated bikeway. And separated bikeways could be one of two facilities. We have buffered bicycle lanes that you see on the left, and we have a brand new one here in town too, over in Mountain View area. That is basically a conventional bike lane with an additional painted buffer space of at least 18 inches. And that's actually a really comfortable facility. I think personally, I biked on the one in Mountain View last fall, and I was really enjoyable, and there was traffic, but I felt very safe on it. There's also the option to do protected bicycle lanes that you see on the picture on the right, and this bicyclist is actually raised up on the raised curve. So the separation here is a physical separation in that their bike lane is raised up from the road. But you can also have separation in the form of a painted buffer and a physical barrier like a curb or a planter or a flexible delineator. So there's a number of ways you can do protected bicycle lanes. So, and we are moving, I think, in AMATS and generally around the country and the world, I think folks are moving towards separation as much as possible. And the third type, not done yet, the third type of facility we are recommending in this plan is a shared use pathway or side paths. This is what Anchorage has got going already to, world-class standards, I think. We have some of the best trails and trail facilities on these shared use pathways of any place I've ever been and cycled and walked. But basically our Tony Nose Coastal Trail and Chester Creek Trail are good examples of the shared use pathway. They are for two-way non-motorized users. They can accommodate cyclists, pedestrians, skaters, wheelchairs, joggers, and skiers, and more. And then the side path, which you see on the right, is like the shared use pathway, but it is located immediately adjacent to a road. So we have these as well in Anchorage, but they're also for two-way movement and non-motorized users. So when we're recommending a shared use pathway facility type or side path, this is what we're talking about. So that was our bike network. For our pedestrian network, what we did was to recommend primary and secondary corridors. We really wanted to focus in on making the most bang for our buck. Implementing pedestrian improvements is hugely expensive. We found that out trying to implement the PED plan that exists already. And so in order to help us do more with the dollars that we have and get more folks on board, what we decided to do in this plan, since we already have a big list of projects from our existing plan that didn't get to be implemented yet, is we decided to focus in, use our data analysis to focus in on our primary and secondary corridors, figure out where those are, where do folks need the most protection, and use those to figure out where we should be doing most of our, or concentrating our dollars to do our projects. So this analysis also incorporates the Vision Zero data that I talked about earlier. It incorporates the demand analysis that I talked about earlier and the areas of high need, and also takes a deep look at where our existing transit stop locations already are. So that kind of, again, wraps on Chapter 4, just touching on it. It's a lot more in detail in the document. So getting into Chapter 5, and I hope everyone's hanging in there. I know this is long, but we're going to keep on trucking. So Chapter 5 is prioritization chapter. So basically, Chapter 4 was all about making recommendations for bike and ped facilities. Chapter 5 is about how we prioritize those projects. So we know we want to do all these projects, but what should we do first? What should we focus on? What's going to give us the best result, the best improvement to our safety and health first that we need to focus on? So how we did that is we looked at 6 criteria. So I've listed them here graphically to sort of show you how they were weighted. So connectivity was the biggest one. It was weighted the heaviest. Next to that, we had health and equity, gap closure, and safety, all kind of weighted the same. And then there were 2 support categories, one for public support, one for previous support. The public support category, or criteria, excuse me, looked at if this project was recommended in this planning effort. So are people recommending this project now? And the previous support looked at if this project has already been recommended in a previous plan. So that's kind of how those broke down. And I'm not going to get too much into this, but this is our prioritization matrix from the planning document, and just shows you how we use those 6 criteria to then score projects and weight them as high, medium, or low. So just real quick example. So connectivity was that big orange, green bubble we saw earlier. So in this matrix, it shows you, what the description of that is. How does the project provide improved connectivity within high demand areas to parks and schools, et cetera, et cetera. And then the source for that project was looking at the demand analysis we looked at earlier, the school, proximity to schools, and proximity to parks. And then so each project that we're recommending was then looked at for this condition column. So is that project, so if we're looking at Northern Lights, for example, is that project located within a quarter mile of a high demand area? If it was, it got a score of high, okay? If it was located within a half mile of the high demand area, it got a score of 3. And if it wasn't located near the high demand area, it got a score of 1. And so for each facility type, each project, we ran them through this process for each of these criteria that I listed. So it's quite involved. Kim is our data expert. So if you have more questions on that at the Q&A part at the end, feel free to ask about that. She could probably explain that better than I could, but basically it's very data heavy, and that's how we ranked and scored all the projects. So having said that, we'll take a look at our bike recommendation map. So before, I showed you the map that showed what we're recommending in terms of facility type. So as far as enhanced shared roadway or shared use pathway and that type of thing. This is basically the same map, but now those projects based on that criteria we just went over have been prioritized. So the projects in red, now you can see those are our high priority projects. So when we're trying to fund things, especially in AMATS, we're always trying to figure out where to spend the money, where is it going to make the most impact. So this is a helpful tool for us because we can now look and see, okay, well, here's the projects we need to focus on, the red projects, or, the medium priority projects. When we're scoring projects for the tip, we can look and see where they end up on this map. Doesn't mean that we're only going to do red projects first or yellow projects. It just gives us a better idea of how things are ranking and where they're going to add value. So hope that explains that a little bit. And then we did the same process for the pedestrian project. So here are the pedestrian corridors we identified, and they're now ranked in high priority, medium, and low. So that's Chapter 5. Chapter 6 we're gonna go through here, and then Chapter 7 is pretty fast. So hope folks are still hanging in there. Chapter 6, this is where our local engineers were awesome, and well, they're awesome the whole way, but this is where they really shone because they did some amazing project descriptions for us. So I'll just tell you, for implementation, one of the things when we were trying to implement the bike plan and the PED plan that we already have, that we ran into some big hurdles, included that a lot of the projects we had into there, we did not have accurate cost estimates associated with those projects. So something that was recommended in the plan that was thought was going to cost maybe $100,000 or something ended up costing us a couple $1,000,000 when we actually went to go implement it. So, and a lot of times for people that are non-engineers, like myself, like the folks on our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, it's really helpful to know what's involved when you recommend a facility type be constructed. So what we did for this chapter is to come up with 6 different types of projects that encompass all the different facility types we're trying to recommend, or the majority of them, and to give folks a really clear idea of what's involved. So the different types of projects we have in this chapter include an intersection project, a trail crossing project at Lake Otis, basically a complete streets renovation project, which was our Fireweed Lane project, a bike boulevard, a sidewalk infill project, and a separated multi-use pathway project. And for each of these different projects, our R&M consultants provided us some really great detail. They provided us project description and locator map, some challenges associated with that type of project, a conceptual design so we could see what it might actually look like, estimates for construction and maintenance, and then different funding options and a potential timeline as far as like how long something like that might take to plan, design, and construct. So as an example, I'll just do one example here, but this is the 10th Avenue and Cordova Street intersection project. So you can see the really nice graphic showing us what that could potentially look like, along with the project challenges you see here. This also includes the maintenance estimates in 2018 dollars. We also have project cost estimates. So included in the cost estimates on this table on the left, you can see cost estimates for engineering, construction, utility relocation, right-of-way acquisition, construction engineering, and contingency. And so you can get an idea of how much something like that would actually cost. So super helpful for AMATS, super helpful for us. And then some different funding options here and a potential implementation process and what that may look like. So that was a big bulk part of our Chapter 6. So we also include policy recommendations, which came with goals, associated goals, and associated priority actions associated with those goals. We also have program recommendations to help us with our education and outreach. There's also a implementation matrix included in this chapter for immediate, mid-term, and long-term. This is actually one of the most helpful tools, I think, for any public person trying to see their plan get implemented, because we have implementation action items you can see on this left-hand corner here, or left-hand column. Then there is the related policy goals. So where's that related to in the planning document? Potential funding sources, and then implementation partners. So who can we tap to help us out in implementing this thing? And then these are all listed in immediate 0 to 2, 2 to 10, and 10 to 20 years. So it really helps us figure out what to do first, and gives us an orderly kind of way to go about things. So that was Chapter 6. Chapter 7 is pretty fast. I'm going to sort of fly through this, but basically, again, wanted to capitalize on all of our great design expertise from Alpha Planning and Design. So began with a look at some guidance that's currently being used and that's maybe not currently being used, but that we could adopt for future use. So national, state, and local guidance documents. We also have design guidance for user needs, so including pedestrians, bicyclists, wheelchair users, and other non-motorized users. We also have facility type recommendations. So again, all those facility types that we recommend in the plan, there's design guidance on how to build each of those facility types. And this tool on the right is one of my particular favorites, because as a non-engineer, sometimes it's hard to figure out what kind of facility you should be recommending on your roadway, or if you have a roadway in mind, you would like a bike lane or something. So this helps you figure out, so look at the posted speed in the x-axis, look at your average daily traffic on the y-axis, figure out where those two are coming together, and you could have either a shared roadway, if you have like 20 mile per hour, you know, a facility, or a bike lane could be up to 30 miles per hour. Once you get above 30 miles per hour, or typically it's 25 miles per hour too, you want to put some sort of buffer in there. And then once the speed gets higher than 40, you want something that's protecting folks. I don't know. I just found this tool super useful. I think the public will really benefit from having tools like this to go to in the planning document. And then finally, in Chapter 7, we also have design guidance for intersections. So here's some pictures of at-grade intersection treatments, some crossing type guidance, intersection examples, some grade-separated intersection treatments, and some signalization options. We also include bicycle parking for short and long term, and some bicycle repair station options. We already have really great repair stations, thanks to folks like CRW, who've been volunteering to install those all around town. We also have signage and wayfinding recommendations. And then finally, we have a design guide, maintenance for winter maintenance, and also a maintenance matrix. And then we have an appendices, and the appendices includes traffic control treatments that are not yet approved. So anything that we've recommended that's not currently approved will show up in our appendix, as we're not leaving it out, but we're going to include it as something that we could use potentially someday. The appendices also includes the meeting minutes from all of our public outreach meetings and an acronym glossary. And that is the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the survey number 2. And while you are answering that, while you're taking survey number 2, I will see if we have some more questions here that we can answer while that's going on. So again, like survey number 1, go ahead and type that link into your browser, or use that QR code, or click on the link in the chat box that Christine has put on there, and take a few minutes to take that survey. I think we are doing pretty good on time here. Let me see. So it looks like we have some questions. We answered the phone app question. Okay, looks like we have a couple questions here. Another one from Will. This one is planning just inside the blue line on the map, or all the way to the green line? Shoot, I don't know what slide you're referring to there. Blue line on the map. I might have to come back to that one. Sorry, I'm not sure exactly what slide. If you know what slide you're referring to there, what map? Maybe you could type that in there, Will, and I'll try to answer that. Sorry. Let me just move on to the next one. Okay, it looks like for the map level of traffic stress, is this only for the bicycle network, or did it also factor into the pedestrian plan? It looks like, this is from Lindsay, it looks like many of the PED primary corridors are on high stress roadways. So that's why I wonder if it was just for bikes. So, okay, that's a great question, Lindsay. I think that was just for bicycles. I think Kim Vorose, let's hold on to that real quick. I think Kim can answer that when we get to our Q&A. So, and I might hold on to some of these other ones for our Q&A. But let's hold that one for a second. We'll come back to it. I do believe it was just for bicycles at level of stress analysis. Here's another one from Lindsay. Are there any recommendations in the plan about lowering speed limits on some of the primary corridors? For pedestrians, there are some really high speed roads in the primary network. I do believe in the plan we do have recommendations to lower speeds on roadways. I'll have to look at the plan exactly to tell you where in the document those are, but maybe while we're looking at some other things, I can take a peek inside the plan and look. And then this question, here's a question from Kathy that says, did you look at Community Council capital improvement project lists? Kathy, I don't know that we did, actually. That's a really good question. I don't know that we got a chance to look at the CIP list from community councils, but that wouldn't be a bad thing for us to look at. We could potentially take a look at those now and make some adjustments to the planning document. So great question. So I'm gonna give folks another minute or two to answer that survey. I know this one's kind of probably my yapping doesn't help you concentrate on the survey, but give folks another couple minutes to answer this survey. And we will move on with that in just a second. Okay, so yeah, there's okay, Will, it looks like Will's responded to me. So Will says, so this was per the question we were talking about earlier. So I'm gonna hold that one and we're gonna answer that in the Q&A because I don't know how many more Q&As are gonna come in here. So we'll just wait a couple minutes on that question. Let me pull up my document too. Okay, so looking at our AMATS boundary map. Okay, so I think I can answer this question for Will. So again, Will's question is for the AMATS boundary map. And the question is planning just inside the blue line on the map or all the way to the green line, Okludna in particular? And the answer, Will, is yes, it is all the way to the green line. And the green line on this table, although it's pretty small, it says AMATS area boundary. So in answer to Will's question, the boundary does go all the way to the green line, yes. Christine, do you think we should look at those survey results from survey number 2?
Sure, we can do that. We've had, let's see, I'm refreshing the results. We've had 8 people take the survey, so I will share my screen and we can look at that.
Great.
Right, if you're looking up on the screen now, they should be popped up. And the first question, what parts of the plan, so are you interested in? Looks like we have pretty even distribution. 8 people answered that question. New projects, prioritization of the projects, implementation of the plan, and then design recommendations were kind of the top 4 given. So ranking the analyses in chapter 2. And we asked folks to look at all 7 of those different analyses. Number 1 was analysis of the existing system, but it's pretty kind of evenly distributed in how they ranked it. Second came health and equity and the demand analysis, the Vision Zero, so safety and security, the LTS level of traffic analysis, and then peer review, and then the existing plan review.
Wow, interesting. Can I just pop in real quick? I think that's interesting that folks rank the analysis of the existing system so high. That's interesting. I would have, yeah, that's interesting. Great.
And then looking at goals. So that third question asked about goals and which were the most important to you. So the two top ones were improving safety and security and optimizing maintenance. Those both came in with the top consideration, and also increasing the use of the network and connecting communities for all modes of transportation. And then fourth, the elements of this is looking at the implementation chapter. And which ones do you think are most helpful? So the matrix got the most votes, and then winter maintenance strategies was second. Second given answer. And then finally, how will you use this plan? And so a lot of the different options got consideration. So as a tool to promote projects was number one, just to educate myself and others on how to use the system, and then it's a additional design tool to help shape new infrastructure, and then learning also to help educate others to get involved in improving the non-motorized network. So that's what we have now. I will stop sharing and send it back to you.
Great, thank you, Christine. That's super helpful. Thank you, everyone, for taking this survey. That's really great information for us, especially as planners, and how we might adjust to our next update. I'm going to open up my share tray again. So again, here's the survey. If you haven't taken it yet, use that QR code. We're going to move on to, I think we're on schedule here. We're going to move on to this last slide that I have, just talking a little bit about where we're going to go from here. So, and then we're going to get to our Q&A part of the workshop. But so basically, we are almost to March. Our public involvement period ends. Our public involvement period ends March 5th. So once that period is ended, we've already been logging and collecting, but we will basically log and collect all of the comments we've received up to this point, and then put them all into our official comment response table for this plan. And we will work with the consultants and our project team to respond to all of the comments that we have received. Including the questions that we're logging these ones live that come in today as well. So we'll be responding officially to all of those as well. And then our hope is to do that majority of the month of March, and then get our planning document with that revised comment response table in front of the Technical Advisory Committee in April of 2021, which will be great if we can hit that deadline or timeline. And the Technical Advisory Committee will review all of the comments that have come in so far. As I mentioned before, we had an extensive internal review agency. The Technical Advisory Committee has already seen this plan, so they shouldn't have a lot of new comments, but they will review all of the comments we got from the public. And then if there's anything in there that give them pause, we'll discuss those, but hopefully everything will get approved, and we will move forward then with the draft plan and that comment response table to get on the Anchorage Assembly review schedule for May. It may be May, it may be June. We'll hope for May. And then that will go in front of the Assembly. They will review and hopefully approve it. And then our final step is to go before the AMATS Policy Committee. They are guiding their guiding committee for AMATS. They make all of the make or break decisions for us, and their final approval for this document we will seek in hopefully June or July of 2021. And once they approve the document, we will have an adopted plan, and we will then take all of the comments received and input those into the final draft and make changes and edits. And then that will probably take at least a month or more. And then we will have a plan for print that folks can have in their hot little hands, or we can put online. And I did want to say, so this is again an opportunity to comment today, but all of these steps along the way. So in April, May, and June, when we go before the Technical Advisory Committee, the Assembly, and the policy committee, those will all be open to the public, and they will be additional opportunities for the public to make more comments. So, and or argue for a comment that you submitted already that you think the committee might question, or you know, just another opportunity to come forward and see the plan revised to how you'd like to see it. So again, more opportunities coming up along the way, and then finally we will hopefully have a plan, a new non-motorized plan. And so I'm going to move ahead to my next slide, which is our Q&A slide. And today we are going to have Kim Volros, who is Planning Associate with Alta Planning and Design, on the line with us, and Mark Frutiger from R&M Consultants. He's also going to be there in case the questions get too technical for me, which happens all the time. Okay, because I am not an engineer, I'm just a planner, but or a data analyst, But at any rate, so we're going to have those folks on the phone for us, and we are going to answer some questions. So I'm going to click on to the published. I'm going to look at our questions here, see if I missed any. So I think we got to Will's questions about the planning area for AMATS, and oh, somebody asked me to stop talking. Sorry. I know I should have stopped talking. I apologize. It's distracting when you're trying to take a survey. So we answered Will's question. I think unless I didn't answer it, let me know, Will. But so here we've got another question. Okay, so here we've got another question from Lindsay. So this one, I might ask Kim for a little assistance. So basically, Lindsay's question is, are there recommendations in the plan about lowering speed limits on some of the primary corridors? For pedestrians, there are some really high speed roads in the primary network. So again, as I said before, I believe, yes, we are making recommendations to lower speeds and do road diets. Kim, is there anything that I'm missing on that you want to expand on?
Hey, Joni, this is Kim. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Excellent.
Excellent. You're a little bit, or you might just speak just a tad louder, though. It's like.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'm on my phone here. I had some computer difficulties.
Okay, great.
If we made a programmatic recommendation that speed limit lowering could be considered, I believe that was made in conjunction with the Complete Streets Plan, which was in process. That may be done now, but there was a discussion of Complete Streets overlay types that would be a good place of integration or synergy between the two plans.
Great. Yes, thank you. And so yeah, that was our street typologies plan. That plan is not done yet, but it's on the roster of things to finish. So, and that plan will be a document that helps us integrate land use and transportation, and give us an opportunity to do some more recommendations about speed, road diets, and recommending different speeds on roads. Great. Thank you, Kim. Okay, so next question is from Renee. Renee's question is, winter maintenance is a major impediment to facility use year-round. How are you addressing this? Are those that complete winter maintenance on board and committed to the plan? So again, Renee, great question. So we did, as I mentioned in the planning presentation, do that winter maintenance forum. At the beginning, we gleaned a lot of really good information. We do have maintenance recommendations in the plan, and we are very aware that maintenance is a super big impediment to getting around Anchorage as a bicyclist and as a walker, and especially as a wheelchair person in a wheelchair. And so I think what we're going to try to do, we have had comments back from the various maintenance departments during our planning process. We do want to really beef that up with some more specific maintenance guidance. And I think, so that second winter maintenance forum that I talked about earlier, I think what an end goal for that forum will be to create a winter maintenance map. So an actual map that shows, or it will be a winter prioritized map. So one thing, and I know that you know this, but some other folks might not, is one thing that a lot of cities have done successfully that struggle with maintenance also, winter cities, is create a winter route for maintenance. So they realize that they don't have the funds, they don't have the facilities or the manpower, woman power to maintain all of their facilities in the wintertime and keep all of their facilities open for folks. But they can focus in on a core network that they know are really important to networks for folks trying to get around. And so they focus in on those winter maintenance routes, and they commit to keeping those routes cleared and open during the winter. And so I think that is a really good strategy, and I think that's something that we could do here in AMATS, in the AMATS area. So I think that will be a big focus of our second winter maintenance forum, is to get that winter maintenance priority map outlined, and figure out where those routes are and what can we reasonably commit to keeping plowed. And I mean plowed isn't like on a regular basis, so that you can count on those routes being cleared when you need to use them. So great question. We do recognize that it is a huge issue, and we are hoping to make some big strides with winter maintenance as part of this planning effort. So thank you for that question. I'm also looking at, let's see, so Will has another question. His question is, are there updated maps? For example, the old Glen between Eagle River and Chugach already has a shared use pathway, but the map recommends building a separated bikeway. So I think Will, I'm not sure if that was the route that I've gotten several comments from Eagle River folks about a route that was not included in the plan. Is that the same route, or is this different? So, and I think, Kim, I might need a little bit of assistance on this one, but so the old Glen between Eagle River and Chugach already has a shared use pathway, and we're recommending a separated bikeway. So so I have to look at that in the plan, actually. Let me take a look at that. We may have to get back to you on that question. It could be something that where we just, it was our error. So maybe with that separated, or that shared use pathway didn't show up on our GIS data, and so we didn't capture it. So let me take a look at that. We'll get back to you on that question, Will. Sorry. Some of these, I should have said this earlier, some of these we may need to get back to you on, or just do a little digging through the document and get back to you. So we'll just move on to the next question, which is from Lindsay. So in the design chapter 7, I haven't seen anything about crosswalks or intersections. Is there a place to include information or comments around improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists? Okay, interesting, Lindsay. I think that in chapter 7 we do have intersection guidance. I know that I showed some in my slideshow. Kim, do you know specific? Let me look through the plan document. But Kim, maybe while I'm doing that, maybe Kim, could you chime in on that?
Yeah,
I know we have intersection guidance.
Yeah, section 7.4, which is called intersections. It's on page 168. 168 of the document, and I believe that's 168 of the plan.
Perfect. Yep, I just turned to it too. So I'm not sure. Maybe if you just overlooked it, Lindsay, but it is in there. Thank you, Kim. We do have at-grade intersection treatments, crossing types, grade-separated intersection treatments, and signalization. Just make sure we get all of that question. Oops, I don't see it anymore. Maybe it got switched to published. Okay. Oh, I see it in the published. Okay, gotcha. Oh, I see. So as I answer questions, I see what's happening. Okay. So Yeah, so Lindsay, I think if you just go to page 167, there is a big section on intersections. Is there a place to include information or comments around improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists? Yes, of course. I think this is, if you have comments or if you have suggestions for or comments pertaining to how intersections should be improved or focused on, for sure leave those for us today, or email those to me, or you can email them to info@amats, and we will include them in the planning document and respond to them in our comment response table. So thank you for that question. Just going to move on to this. Okay, so here's from Anonymous. How and where will the upcoming opportunities to comment be announced? Great question again. Okay, so that slide that I showed earlier showing, and I'll just gonna go back to here. So for all these 3 events, the Technical Advisory Committee will be the next opportunity to comment after our March 5th comment period closes. So, so Christine, maybe you can help me out here, but for the Technical Advisory Committee, we always send out an email blast to everyone. Yes. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we'll send out an email 7 days before the meeting to everybody who's signed up in our email, and you can do that and pick and choose which committees and notifications you want by logging on to muni.org/AMATS, and there's on the left-hand column there's a new sign-in sheet where you can sign in, and even if you're already on that list but you want to update your notifications, you'll see Policy Committee, Technical Advisory Committee, etc., and you can pick which emails you would like to receive. We'll also make a Facebook announcement for Facebook event for the committee meeting and push it out on social media.
Perfect. Thank you, Christine. Yes, that is a great question. And I was going to say, for some of these questions too, if you don't quite catch how we're responding in real time here, we can always email you a response. So I think at the end of this, we'll probably take these questions and type them in an email and then send them the response back to you just to make sure that you have it. Well, that was from Anonymous, so I don't know. Well, yeah, unless you're anonymous, and then we can't email you back. But okay, so next question we have is, let's see, so this is a long one. Let me read this. So it says, some of the secondary paved paths marked on the existing bicycle network map are too dangerous due to frequent driveways and do not meet AASHTO standards for side paths due to narrow widths of lack of offset or barrier from the roadway. An example is including long sections of Tudor, Northern Lights, Lake Otis, Minnesota, and Boniface. Why are these considered bicycle facilities? How would the plan's prioritized projects change if these unsuitable paths were not considered to be existing bicycle facilities? So it's a long question. So let me just read the parts again. So some of the existing secondary paved paths are too dangerous due to frequent driveways. They don't meet AASHTO standards, and the side paths are, sorry, okay. So basically, I think the question is asking us how we can be recommending bicycle facilities along these roadways. So that's a really good question. I think some of these ones that are listed, Tudor, Northern Lights, Lake Otis, Minnesota, and Boniface, are very high speed roadways. So I think we're trying to, what we're trying to do in this plan is complete the non-motorized network. So for some of these roadways, what we were thinking originally is that instead of focusing on improving the non-motorized network along the facility, especially for bicyclists, we would create a second facility that runs adjacent to it on a route that's less trafficked, that's less traveled. So and I think one of these questions I got maybe from Zach earlier, Zach Fields, is that he was wondering why we weren't putting more bicycle facilities on these high-speed roadways, and that was because they are very high-speed roadways, and while the pedestrians need to be located on those roadways, so those are focused in for ped improvements, the bike networks, we were trying to find some alternative routes for bicycles to travel. So I don't know if that's
Joni,
exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to dovetail onto your answer there.
Okay,
and
cool. And I'm gonna
a really fair question. Sorry.
I'm gonna publish that so folks can see it too. So if you need to see it, it's in the chat box.
Cool. That is a really good question about meeting the AASHTO standards. That was one of the reasons that you'll see in the plan a recommendation to gather additional data on the bicycle on the side path network. When we dove in to start looking at the design details of the facilities, we realized that we didn't have enough data comprehensively across the system to do a valid detailed study that would do the entire network justice. So for that reason, we decided to do what Joni said, which is focus on unbuilt sections of the network and then consider alternatives for bike boulevard network along the corridor. The plan does call for that a more detailed data analysis, at which point we recommended consideration of upgrades to the existing side path network as a part of the future upcoming trails, recreational trails plan, if I remember correctly.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. And I know that was a long question, so I will say also we'll follow that question up with a direct email so that you can see our answer to that, because that was a pretty long, a little bit involved. I'm going to move just so that we can keep up with our questions because they are coming in. I'm just going to take us now to our next question. Thank you, Kim. This is another one about winter maintenance. It says, better winter maintenance would be a huge step forward in making the existing bike ped network available and equitable year-round. How do we move away from designating non-motorized facilities as snow storage and toward clearing them within 24 hours of snowfall? I think this is a really great question. I don't know that I have an answer, especially when we're talking about moving away from snow storage. I think that is definitely would be better answered by the maintenance folks and the engineers. But I would love to see us move towards a clearing of within 24 hours of snowfall. I think in Finland, so I was in Finland last winter, and their snow removal policy is, I believe, 3 centimeters. So when the snowfall gets to 3 centimeters, they are out plowing, they are out clearing, and pretty much any time of day you need to go anywhere, you can know that you can step outside and get where you need to go. And I would love to see us move towards that. I think this question is a little bit more technical, and I'm going to say will be better responded to in our maintenance forum, but we'll save it for that. But I will say, I think one of the big things that we need to do is move towards a culture shift in this state especially, which is going to take a lot of work from our policymakers in making winter maintenance a priority that is agreed upon by all of the policymakers from the highest to the lowest to the highest levels, that they can all agree that this is something worth spending money on. We need to have better equipment. We need to have more staff. We need to have people designated to making this a priority. And I would love to see us move towards 24-hour snowfall. So really good question. I'm going to save that one for our winter maintenance forum, and we'll publish an answer to that in our log after this open house. So next question says, are there plans to increase, this is from Lizzie, so are there plans to increase the number of pedestrian crossings of roads and improving the existing conditions so that, for example, pedestrians don't have to go through an intersection 3 times simply to cross a street, crossing Minnesota between Benson and Northern Lights as an example? So again, are there plans to increase the number of pedestrian crossings of roads and improve the existing crossing so that pedestrians don't have to go through an intersection 3 times simply to cross the street. And Lizzie, I would say yes, we do have a plan. I think this document, unfortunately, we cannot get right down into the details of actual intersection crossings on our corridors that we're recommending. But I will say that if a project is put forward for funding in the AMATS tip, that project will get to a design phase. The engineers will look at intersections as a main thing, what they're studying to figure out how to redesign the street. And Mark, you can feel free to chime in here about how you guys and ladies look at intersection, making revisions to intersections to make them safer for pedestrians. So Mark, do you want to say anything about that? But we don't touch on it here in the document because we are laying out broad corridor and facility planning, but at a design level, it will be addressed.
Sure, Joni, I can chime in here real quick. I think it's a good question. And pedestrian crossing improvements at intersections, whenever a project is up for design and it looks at, and we look at improving intersections, that's always at the forefront. We recognize there are a lot of intersections, not only around Anchorage, but in other places as well, where the pedestrian crossing distance was not at the forefront of the minds of those folks who designed and constructed those facilities years ago. So it's always something that we look at, ways to improve crossings, whether it is installing additional crossings or shortening the crossings or just generally improving it. So that's always something that we look at.
Great, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so at a different scale or a different phase of the project, that will be looked at. Great question. Here's one from Kathy. This one is, when would it be appropriate to discuss specific proposed projects? There are a number of projects. I'm not sure specifically what is proposed. There are also some projects in the plan that Turnagain Community Council is on record as opposing. We are having a land use committee meeting via Zoom next Wednesday, February 24th. Would it be possible for a team member to join us for a more localized discussion at the time? Of course, Kathy, be happy to present or just show up for discussion at your community council meeting. Just shoot me a Zoom invite or Microsoft Teams invite, and I will be there, no problem. Yeah, we're happy to discuss any projects that you want to discuss in more detail. So just send me an email. Happy to help. Okay, so this next question is from Will. His question is, so is there a point person for fixing map errors? Yes, Will, that person is me, and then I will delegate out to our team. So I know we have a few things we need to fix in the Eagle River Chugiak area that folks have already commented to me about, and we're hoping to we will make that a priority to get those fixed for you. So just contact me about them, or you can send the email to info, AMATS info, it'll get to me as well, and I will make sure that it happens. So next question is also from Will. It says, I agree with Lindsay. This must have been for a question earlier. There are a few missing crosswalks along existing routes. Is there a way to integrate them into the plan? Specifically the Old Glen Highway at North Birchwood, the existing bike path requires a 0.5 mile detour to access a crosswalk. Great question. I think that at this stage, I don't want to say no that we can't incorporate those recommendations. We don't specifically have intersection recommendations in our document as it stands right now, but we have a design recommendations. But we could certainly talk in-house about including those, especially if it's something that's dear to the community. We want to make sure you guys approve of the plan and are happy with it. So I'm going to say yes, we will for sure talk about that and see if we can include those in some way. So great question. If there are intersections that you're especially concerned about, email me and we'll have a discussion and see if we can get some guidance in our document for you. Great question. I'm going to publish that one. Let's see. Okay, so here is a question from Anonymous. It says some of the secondary paved paths marking, or wait, did I read this? Oh, sorry. This was the one I already read and published. Never mind. Okay, this is another one from Anonymous. It says, my concern is that the existing facilities map is misleading because many of those green lines are not actually suitable bike routes. Aha. Okay, so I'm just going to turn to, so I guess, and I'm thinking the word misleading is that they're not safe. You don't feel that they're safe route currently. So just going to our existing facilities map. So yeah, so I don't know exactly what to say to that other than if there is a potential, if there are specific facilities that you feel that you know of are very unsafe. I feel like we caught a lot in our web map and our app online comment map that we did throughout the process. But if there are specific facilities that you're referring to that you really feel are unsafe and don't qualify to be listed, please send those to us and we'll take a closer look at that. But good question. I'm sure, you know, some folks may agree with you. So yeah, just let us know which ones you're talking about. Next question is from Lindsay. Let me publish. Oh, you are. Okay, I think, not sure, Christine. I think Christine is doing that for me. Okay, so next question is from Lindsay. For signs and wayfinding, is there an opportunity to better integrate Indigenous place names in this document? I haven't seen it if it's already included. Great question, Lindsay. And I love how the Parks Foundation has done such a good job of integrating Indigenous place names into the wayfinding plan that they have in place and the signs that are popping up around Anchorage on the trails. I say absolutely. Yes, that's something we overlooked, but I would love to include a section in our plan that talks about including those. So thank you for that comment. And we will definitely include a section on that because I think that would be awesome. I'm looking through our comments here. I think that's all. I think I've answered all of them. If I didn't answer your question, or I will wait here for, oh, here, does anyone come in? Nope. If I did not see your question, feel free to submit it again, but I think I've gone through all of them at times. Tis 6:32. Does anyone have any other questions? We super appreciate you being involved and listening in today to the open house and being a part of our process. Like I said, we will log all of these questions and formally respond to them. So you will be able to see the answers. And if you'd like a printout of that, just email us or email AMATS info and we'll get you a printout of all the questions that came in today and our responses. So you can see that in case you didn't catch something as we're just talking about it here. But no, this has been great. We super appreciate your participation. I'm gonna hang out for a few more minutes in case any more questions come in, but anybody else want to say anything? Mark, Christine, Kim? Need some music.
I just want to say thanks for the participation.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And I will just, while we're waiting here, I'll just kind of go back to this slide for folks so they can see the process from here on out. Oh, okay, here we go. Oh, gotcha. Okay, we did get a little question in here. Not. Okay, just some, looks like some technical issues with the app or with the app. So we'll address those, but so again, our slide for our process moving forward, we've got at least 3 more opportunities for input. Again, as I mentioned to Kathy Gleason earlier, if you would like a presentation at your community council, I'm happy to do that and present. If you have questions about specific projects, please email us. If you have suggestions that you think we left, or things you think we left out of the plan that you think should be included in the plan, let us know. And this is the time to get involved. So we super appreciate everyone showing up and participating. Thank you so much. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah.
Jody, I'll just mention that this was recorded, so if anybody did not get to attend or wants to rewatch it, we will post this on the website so anybody can rewatch this presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier too. So this is all recorded live and will be available on the website to review, or send it to a friend who missed today who wanted to come. Yeah, thanks everyone so much. Oh wait, we did get one last question here, I think, from Lindsay. Okay, so the question is, I'm trying to better understand the priority pedestrian corridors and the 300 projects listed. Can you share how those projects were identified and prioritized, or just anything more to share on this? So, Lindsay, the 300 prioritized projects that are in the plan are actually from the existing pedestrian plan. So those, that's what you're referring to. Those came from the existing pedestrian plan and can be found on pages 86 through 86 through 96, so 10 pages worth. And these were taken directly from the old PED plan. So the old PED plan scored projects, and they have their scoring criteria listed in the table that's on those pages there, so you kind of see the criteria. It looked like those included crashes, employment, redevelopment, town centers, transit, school, shopping, parks, and then those were all added up to come up with the total points given to the project for ranking. So those are all from the existing PED plan. What we have done in our plan is, and because one of the reasons we did this, one big reason we did this was because we were trying to implement that old PED plan, and it was so expensive every time we tried to do a project, do a pavement sidewalk project or pavement replacement project, so expensive. So we only got a very small handful of those projects from the original pedestrian plan constructed. And I believe the pedestrian plan date is 2007 or 2010, so maybe 2010. So in the last 11 years, we only were able to implement a small handful of those projects. One, because they were super expensive. Well, that was, I say one, that was the biggest issue. They were just really expensive. So what we decided to do this time around was to come up with priority corridors instead of coming up with project recommendations. So what that does is open us up a little bit more to flexible implementation from different funding pots and different funding sources. So if we're not recommending an actual facility, we're just saying this entire corridor needs to be focused on to improve safety and connectivity for pedestrians. Then anytime any street or that corridor is going to be improved by any entity in Alaska, not just AMATS, they can know, we're not recommending a specific project there, but we want to leave it up to the designers. What do they think will be the best thing to put there to improve safety and connectivity for pedestrians? So again, rather than coming up with an entire new list of projects like we did with the bicycle facilities, we really want to focus in on corridors and open it up for funding opportunities and open it up for design flexibility. So those are basically why you see corridors in the plan that we're recommending, high priority corridors, and you see the projects from the old plan. Hope that answers the question. If you have more questions on that, Lindsay, you know, you can just give me a call tomorrow or whatever. I'm happy to answer that. But that basically explains why you see those in here. Okay, we've got some more questions here. Okay, from Donovan, great. Coming in here at the last minute. I see how it is. Okay, Donovan, one more last question. The project costs from the examples, those totals also include vehicle roadway improvements. This also happens in the MTP plans where roadway surface improvement costs are lumped into non-motorized project budget totals. Would there be a way to have the bike and walking items broken out of the estimates? Would this plan have potential to call for better tracking on biking and walking infrastructure spending? Donovan, that's a really good question. I am going to maybe field that one to Mark because I feel like it's more of an engineering question, but I put that in the published column. Mark, can you see it?
I don't see that, no, but I heard the question, so I think I can answer it.
Okay, if you want me to read it again, shoot, I can do it.
No, I think I got it, Joni.
Okay.
I think it's a good question, but I think it kind of gets to the heart of one of the issues that you mentioned, Joni, with the old plan, and that is that the costs were grossly underrepresented, and I think it was because those projects did not take into consideration the entire project. So perhaps if we look at only the costs to make the bicycle improvements and we try to divorce that from the overall project that is necessary to make it work within the context, that's when we run into trouble. So while we could segregate that cost, I think it's not a good idea just because it then it wouldn't represent the true cost of implementing the project, because a lot of times you can't just make the pure non-motorized improvements without considering other things.
Right, great. No, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Mark. It is hard to just isolate things and just look at them separately. And I think we're all about right now too, we're all about trying to include everything that we need to include so that we don't run into that issue of, oh, we ran out of funding, or oh, we don't have the funding for that because it wasn't included in the planning of this project. So we're gonna have to cut, this and this out. And so, yeah, great question. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, I'm gonna go, so we have a couple more here, great. Okay, this is from B. She says, or he, sorry, B, I don't know who B is, but the question is, thanks so much. More questions and comments later as I'm still working my way through it. This presentation has better visuals than the previous ones I have followed this year. Oh, great. Okay, well, thank you so much for the compliment. Yeah, and let us know when you got your questions and send them our way. And then one more from Will here. It says, I think the focus on corridors is very important to convey. As it is now, it looks like a whole bunch of projects were abandoned. Okay. So I'm not sure. So I think the focus on corridors is very important to convey. Okay, so is what you're saying, and feel free to reply here if this is what you're saying, Will. Are you saying that I should focus more on letting people know the process and why we're recommending corridors instead of new pedestrian projects? And I think that's what you're saying. And if you are saying that, I completely agree with you. That was an issue for us when we first started out. And first comment we got was that the plan was very bike focused and needed to be more ped focused. So we tried to do a better job of explaining what our thought process was there. But and I don't see an answer back from you right away, but I think I answered your question. If I didn't, shoot another question in that box there. But I think that is all the questions we have right now. So I super appreciate everyone's involvement. Thank you so much for being part of our open house. We really appreciate it, and we really value your feedback, and want to make this plan a plan that you can be proud of and that you are excited to see implemented. So thank you so much, and please let us know if you have any further questions or whatever you would like to see as far as more presentations or project questions. Just send us an email. And with that, I think I'm going to sign off because I think we've only got 15 minutes left here, and we did pretty good. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Christine. Super big shout out to Christine Schutte, our new public involvement planner. She really made this virtual open house a breeze and so fun to do. I really appreciate all the work you did on this. So thank you so much. And with that, go ahead.
Oh, I said thanks, Joni. Great job.
Oh, thanks. Yes. Back at you. Okay, thanks everyone. Enjoy your evening, and we look forward to receiving your comments. So
bye-bye.
We will keep them coming. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I'm gonna... All right, Christine.